Okay, so let's get through this up and down stuff. So here this diagram is set up to start at C, but we move the bottom string to the root string shape. Okay, so normally with the D string shape, if you move it up, you go to its fifth. The fifth of D is G string shape. In the old cage system, the short pattern's the barred stack that drifts off towards the fret nut, so you can't use it easily, because just one fret over is going to, be a no play, unless you're at least at your F and to the right of that with your tuning, the E tuning. So, and then move it down, and we go to its fifth. The fifth of D is A. Okay, but over here on the long string shapes, we don't deal with the string shapes, but we will use them heavily when we get to shape identifications and scales within the long pattern. Okay, so you can see the short patterns are embedded within the long patterns, but we have the walkover, the bridge, okay? So in the long patterns, the modal patterns, we're dealing with modes. Ionian root 2, 3, Lydian 4, 5, 6, Mixolydian 5, 6, 7. We're dealing with modes and numbers. So root 2, 3, we want to go to its fourth, move the pattern up. Okay, then the bottom string becomes the fifth. Okay, so you're playing something like, you want to go to the fourth, but the string underneath that is going to be the fifth now. So here's 5, 6, 5, 6, 7. Okay, root 2, 3. That 5, 6, 7 is relative to the fourth root. That's what it is. And then we move the pattern down for the fifth. Okay, and that becomes interesting there too. So we're dealing more with numbers. We have to move along, because I'll tell you, I didn't want to spend this much time on the ups and the downs of it. We've got something more important to look at. So over here I wrote, the long pattern stack is the Phrygian third stack: C3, C4, A5, G6, E7, root 2. See, this is new stuff. This is new stuff here. So here's your Phrygian, here's your, it's like a Phrygian third scale. That's our modal. Okay, starting, if you want to look at C, C, A, G, E, E, D, as almost the word cage expanded. Whereas normally in caged over here, we have the fifth pentatonic. 3, 5, 6, 7, 2. It's the fifth pentatonic. That's just a little interesting facts. Now let's look at our fretboard. So here we have the regular fretboard. We have the down C tuned fret nut flag right here, and we've got the normal E tuned fret nut flag right here at 3, 4, 5. Key is C. E is the third of C. Here's root, that would be C. That would be the B, but it's not playable really if the fret nut's there. So this is the, let me lean forward a little bit. I'm kind of like, I'm trying to do two things at once, computer and playing. So this is the whole thing, and I know I rolled it out, so I also rolled it out. So we've got here, these are in fourths. Fourth of E is A, that kind of thing. And for the most part, the fourth of G is C. Okay, here's the fourth of, let's see. Now we have to be careful, because what it is they are in fourths, but horizontally, we could get in a little bit of trouble, because we're trying to make the cages too big. We want to encompass 4 scales in each cage. So we're not really calling them cages anymore, we're just calling them regions. Okay, because we can play it in 4 different ways now. We can play the old style scale. Okay, we can play a cutout. on the first string. We can play cutout on the third, on the G to B string, and we can play the playaways. There's four different ones. So we've expanded. But look at this. See, here we go. C to G to D to A. Okay, fifth of C is G, fifth of G is D, fifth of D is A, fifth of A is E. But then we go to C here. As you know, the fifth of the E shape is the C shape. But then we kind of do the same thing again. We have a little half step shuffle here. We go the fifth of E is C again. And then we just start the cage. So the majority, okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1 anomaly here. 4 out of 7 takes it. So for the most part, it's in fifth when we're going up in string shapes. So where's our string shape build? Here's our string shape build down here. Alright. So we've go E to C is its fifth. The fifth of E is C. Remember, we don't go to B in caged. The E shape goes to the C shape. Kind of suspenseful. Okay, then the C shape goes to the E shape. That's the fourth. That kind of doesn't fit there. Okay, but now we have. But that's that anomaly. Now we go E to C is a fifth again, C to G is a fifth, G to, and we just stack them on top of each other. Once you learn the string shapes, just build the string shape wherever you are. If we're in F, the key of F, I want to say this is the root. It's root 2, 3. All right, then we've got 4, 5, 6, 7 root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root 2, 3, 4. Alright, in the key of F. That's your B flat there on top. So you just build these string shapes on any number. I know I'm not making a whole lot of sense. So for the most part, we're looking at motion that'll go horizontally. So why do we want to look at horizontal motion? Why do we want to say that the fourth of the root 2, 3 string shape is 4, 5, 6 horizontally? Because if we want to play the 4, 5, 6, we've got a duplication of this note, of this note string here. Okay, what's our color? We want to get a nice, we want to deal in the with the Lydian color here. So it's gray. So here's our 4, 5, 6, and we have that guitar is set up to have the same notes here and here. So that's why we're interested in what's to the right and to the left. Okay, sure, they're connected by cage, and you can connect each string shape, you know, as you go along and play. We got 4, 5, 6, goes to 5, 6, 7, goes to 6, 7 root, goes to 7 root 2, and all that stuff. But if you don't want sharing, you would go 4, 5, 6, goes to what? 7 root 2. Well, look at this. 4, 5, 6. What's above it? 7 root 2. Okay, so the 4, 5, 6 has here partially a C string shape, so that C would go to that G string shape fourth, and it's got partially the A string shape. It will go to its A string shape fourth. Okay, so everything, so we want to look at some trends. So we look at, you know, hey, we're going this way kind of in fifths, and this way kind of in fourths, which is the opposite of fifths. Okay, in modal cages, we're more concerned with the numbers. Okay, so let's look at this. We got everything here, and this is what happens when we have this overlap. So that's why we roll it out. All right, so we're going to play 1, 4, 5. All right, we got root 2, 3 here, and then we just move the pattern up. 4, 5, 6 becomes the new root. Now here's 5, 6, 7 hiding down below. When we move the pattern down, right, 4, 5, 6 takes the bottom. We move the pattern up. 5, 6, 7. You see how it's opposite the way the